Right, it's G from Native Speakers Academy, and it's Friday, where I am here. Probably not where you are if you're watching this, who knows. Friday, day of love. You ever think about the days of the week? The words of the days of the week? No, you probably never think about that because it's all automatic, right? 7 days in a week, 12 months in a year. You know, the Slovaks have a phrase, treba. It's great the way that different languages are also completely and totally unique. If I were to translate treba into English, it would be you should. Now, you should. Treba. Ever think about the days of the week, the months of the year? December, Dec 10. Why is the 12th month called the 10th month? October, Oct 8. Why is the 10th month called the 8th month? Now, if you know the answer to that, good. If you don't, it's a bit of a puzzle. So, days of the week. Why is Sunday called Sunday? Why is Monday called Moon Day? Tuesday, Woden's Day, Thor's Day, Fria or Frita Day. So, Sunday's the sun, Monday's the moon. Tuesday's the god of war. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all Norse words. It's interesting. English is a bastardized language. It's basically 12 languages mixed up together in a pretty interesting way, really. One of the problems with this construct of the English language, I'll get back to the days of the week in a second. One of the problems is that it's not phonetic. It's a non-phonetic language, which means we speak differently from how we write, which means it's really two languages. It's two languages. Think about that carefully. Not just one language. English is two languages. So that what we write and what we speak can appear to be two different things. It's a code within a code. It's a mystery within a mystery. So, back to the days of the week, as I try not to sneeze here. See? Bless me. Bless me. Thank you. Right. Tuesday, God of War. Wednesday, Woden's Day. It's the father of the gods, Odin, who then later became Father Christmas. Really, he did. If you look at the history, even looks the same in terms of pictorial description. Anyway, Thor, Thursday, God of Thunder. And Friday was the god of love. There we go. Saturn, Saturnian god, Saturnian cults. The cults who worship Saturn and the ring of Saturn, or the rings of Saturn, and the color black is all representative of that. Think about the graduation cloaks, and think about what judges wear when they sit in courts in many parts of the Western world. all part of this ancient Saturnian cult. So, days of the week, pretty interesting. Now, I guarantee you, if you go into the days of the week and the meanings of the days of the week, wherever you live, then you'll find some interesting connections there. Especially if you're Slovak. See, the Slovaks don't think about their days of the week, but if you go into the days of the week, they have very, very special meanings. Anyway, that's not what I wanted to rap about this morning. This morning, what is on my mind to talk about is the mess we're in, how we got here, how we survived, how we learned to love our own process of creative destruction. Now, creative destruction is basically the financial system that we have orchestrated. In the process of life, in the cycle of life, death is probably the most important part. Because death allows birth. It makes way, it makes space. Death allows rebirth. We can clean out the old, come in with the new, and be reborn, as the religious people say. And throughout history, we have needed this. Society has this wave of history where it rises and falls. Countries rise and fall, and empires rise and fall. Dictators rise and fall. And so part of the Western world is on this fall right now. So how did we get into this mess? It's long, it's complicated, and there's not just one answer. But I'm going to give you one of the reasons. One of the reasons is that in the cycle of life, we have turned the dead into the living. We have what can only be described as zombie culture. I recently heard somebody say zombie banks are what are financing this world. Banks that should be dead already, but they've had life pumped into them through the printing of money and consequently the devaluation of the currencies. So how do we get into this problem of dead entities walking around? To be dead, to be lifeless, to be a body, to be a corpse, to have organs. Keywords: body, corpse, and organ. Think about organizations, the organs of society. You also find an organ in a church as well. So, the body, the corpse, the corpus, the corporation, the company, group of people, friends perhaps, corporation, the business. So, in the cycle of life and death, those people in history who were able to build up power, control, wealth, to rise to the top of the pyramid. Within generations, their wealth was gone, their power was gone, their children were not able to rise up to their expectations. They became lazy, corrupt, debauched. It's the pattern of history. And so it was theorized that if there was a way to not die, to live forever, you could have, once you rose to the top, control forever. Which of course is an evil thing to want to do, because you're acting against the very nature of the universe, this cycle of life. Life requires death in order for it to be precious. And so in the sense of that Frankenstein, in the sense of Dr. Frankenstein's monster, Frankenstein, of course, was the doctor, not the monster. The rich elites of history employed people to study this, to theorize about it, to work on this problem. And they came up with this idea: what if there was a living body that was not a person? What if we could create something real, breathe life into something that was not living? What if we could create an entity that acted like a person but was not a person? That would mean that they would never die, and their power and control could be maintained. And so what was created, and there's another great advantage to this, is that the problem with countries is that you can't really move them, because they're all fictions anyway. Just make some lines on a piece of paper and say this is A and this is country A and this is country B. I mean, look at North Africa. It's like someone took a ruler and just drew straight lines. You know, the lines run right through the middle of mountain ranges and cultural habitats, and it's insanity. You know, countries are just ways to farm the planet, basically. I mean, if you look at how a farm works, and then you take a step back from our planet and you look at it, basically it looks like a farm. Anyway, back to the corpus concept. What if we could make the dead the living? What if we could, because when you had to do something like, when you had a problem with someone, and it became a legal problem, a very serious problem, and you went into the court like the tennis court, because it's a game, the badminton court, it's a game, with two sides, and you there are rules, and you follow the rules, and you see who wins. So you can only take people there, and this was very dangerous for those who were heads of organized larger organizations, because the larger the organization, the more problems exist within it, and the more potential there is for corruption. Because big organizations are always the ones who don't pay on time. It's just one of those facts in business. The bigger and more complex the organization, the less likely you are to get paid. And anyone who works in business in general knows that this is true. So those at the head of the tops of these companies wanted some protection for themselves. So it was theorized that if there was a way to make the dead living, get to the point. The point was that companies, organizations, while we use these words, psychological, took on the form of people in the legal sense. So that you wouldn't take a person to court, you would take the company to court, which was of course alien in human history, because the idea of taking something into court which didn't exist was insane. We've learned to accept this over time as being perfectly normal. We have been trained like trains to follow tracks, and paths, roads and avenues. We have been trained to stay on the track. And so these unreal bodies were created, these organizations, these corporations that took on the form psychologically and in the legal sense of people. Remember, there's a difference between legal and lawful. That's something to keep in the back of your mind. Remember, there's a difference between what's legal and what's right as well. The last resort of the scoundrel is belief that the law is what is moral. So, these zombie entities were created. These corporations, these organizations, which took on personalities. They had symbols. Symbol drawing its power from the sun. They had symbols and logos, the word. And they became real living things that could be acted upon and acted against. And this spelt the end for the cycle of life as we know it. Because that meant that when the people who created and built up these organizations passed on and passed away, their organizations remained. They remained in place. They did not die with the traditional cycle of life. In fact, they grew and they grew. And the problem with the power of countries and governments was that you couldn't move them. They were fixed in one place. But the corporations, these were like mini governments with their territories. And you could move them around, which freed them up to explore possibilities, to exploit the resources of the world. Now, you might think that that's a bit of a negative perspective on it, but essentially that's the way that it works. You might not want to think about it at all. You might want to go back to bed. So, feel free. The point is, the cycle of life requires death. We need to clean out the old so that we can bring in the new. And the principle of the growth over the last 200 years of the corporations and organizations is very much anti-human. Well, don't get me wrong, that you can produce wonderful things if you have a larger organization. You know, I'm driving a car that's the result of 100 years of communication, development, study, and research. So I'm very happy about that. But just because something good exists doesn't mean we have to accept something bad within our lives. And that's the thought that I'd like to leave you with this morning. Please let me know what you think. I apologize if this was